When it was clear that South Africa was coming, freedom was echoing somewhere in South Africa, and Nelson Mandela was released out of prison. That musical group had gained amazing popularity. Met the late Chris Hani, the late Oliver Tambo, Alan Busak. If you wanted South African music in Los Angeles, you called us. I worked with Hugh Masekela, Jonas Gwangwa, Os Miriam. The list is long. And I'm not even a musician. I'm just a hustler who just wanted to make a buck. And eventually, when the writing was on the wall, after graduating, I worked at UCLA, and we investigated, we did research, a lot of research about the lives and times of Marcus Garvey. And it kind of politically opened my eyes. And I began to understand the dynamics of where we are, who we are as a people, and my entire desire was to want to come back to South Africa. There's an African saying that says, worst vest stays best, that you never truly appreciate your country until you go miles away. And for me, having left the country, I began to appreciate South Africa from the outside. And I thank God that I came back before elections to be part of the transformatory process that was now taking place in South Africa. When I came back, I kissed the ground. The day I landed at the airport, I kissed the ground. It's been 11 years being away from home. That beautiful grandmother died while I was in, overseas, and unfortunately I couldn't come home to come and bury her. Started hustling again. I got a job. I didn't like the job. And I knew that something was born in me, and that was entrepreneurship. And I decided I'm going to hustle. Hustled, and I remember I used to go to fashion shows in the US, and I went to one, and I decided this is how I'm going to earn a living. I'm going to go to all fashion shows. I know every single fashion show, on the last day, nobody wants to return back home with their stock, so they sell it dead cheap. So I'd wait for the last day and buy clothes, and I'd come home. And that's how I started. I bought my first car, 325 Kusheshe. I dropped the suspension, put exhaust pipe. Man, I loved that thing. When you revved it, boom, it would hit you big time. And that's what I did, man. That was my first car. 35,000 I paid cash with money that I earned from clothing. From there, I love public speaking. I met a lady, Mary Gray, who wanted to basically market my services. I traveled the country, spoke to hundreds of thousands of people. At the time, I met a beautiful woman, a black woman, Ntabi saying. She is probably the reason that I'm standing today, because had it been not through her prayers, I guarantee you I would not be here today. I should be dead, buried, and gone. And I say it with the utmost of humility when I tell you that if you want to see a miracle, you're looking at one. I say it with the utmost of humility. Had it been not for the grace of God upon my life, I wouldn't be standing today. And I came back, I joined the church. We went to a church in Davidton in the township. I just missed the township flair, music, you know, ingoma zesintu, you know, go see, you know, that, and I came, it was amazing. Met Brahyu, reconnected, brought all kinds of people. I asked Pastor, let's come and talk about drugs and things like that. We spoke about drugs. It was amazing coming back home. You know, I felt I was at home. I was in a church that was spirit-filled and things like that. And when I started to make money, rather than going to church and celebrating the God that gives me the money, I started to think that I've arrived. So naturally what I did, I started drinking alcohol. I started befriending wrong people. I started going to strip joints and strip clubs. I started to do things that I naturally would not do. And before long, you know, I started smoking cigars, drinking expensive whiskey, speaking expensive English, thinking I've arrived. Little did I know that the God that you serve is a jealous God. If you don't give him the credit, we are dedela, we are sugague, but when you get into stuff, you have to see for yourself. And unfortunately, I started dying. My brother had a little boy, a beautiful boy. At the time when I got married, he was probably about 5 years. I decided to adopt him, took him. When he grew up and he said, Dad, I want to go to school. I said, what school do you want to go to? He said, I want to go to Takis to study food technology. Unfortunately, Sbusiso, after 6 months, cut long story short, I found him in ICU fighting for his dear life. And at 18 years old, on June 16, it will never be the same again. We went to that ward with my kids and my wife, and we prayed for Spusiso. We switched machines off, and Spusiso, we watched him die, 8 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock he passed away. I went to the morgue, opened his wounds, and saw the extent of the damage that he had sustained. It was a horrible sight to see. I didn't have a verse, I didn't have a chorus, because now, I was chilling with people drinking alcohol. I was literally a master pretender. I should have been given a best performing award for best performance, because I would just go to church. Abner Mariri. I was dressed, sitting in the front, and I wanted people to see me. But inside, there was no God, there was nothing. I went to strip joints. I'd wake up, come home at 4 o'clock in the morning, just enough to shower, had a whiskey in my car, take a thought after the pastor preached, and say, cheers, this was an amazing sermon. I became a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You won't believe it. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I was offered something that I should not have taken, and that was crack cocaine. And damn, I hate drugs with a passion. And it was a small room. I'd gone to speak somewhere, and they invited to say, come and chill. You come chill with us. I went to chill. And it was Tuesday. I'll never forget it. And just before I went home, I said, "Gilly toilet, but hamba upstairs, there's a door on the left." Instead of going to the door on the left, I went to the door on the right. And in the door on the right, I found about 8 or 9 guys. What attracted me was 3 girls, half naked, with their tits showing up. And I saw 2 guys that I knew well, and I said, this is where I'm going to chill. So they locked me in, closed the door, argued amongst themselves, and they said, you gotta take something. I looked at something that looked like a cigarette, and it was a crack pipe. Took it, put it in my mouth, and everybody laughed at me. My eye was eyeing those girls, and I said, who are these people to laugh at me? I tried it again. 15 minutes, didn't do anything. I decided I'm going home. Got on the freeway. It was hardly 5 minutes I was on the freeway. The drug started to kick in. I parked on the side, I savored the moment. It was like a new world was born to me. There was no chorus, there was nothing I had stored. I want to say, when things go well for you, when God blesses you and opens opportunities and gives you deals, before you go celebrate with anyone, run to the house of God. Give him the credit, because he is your God. He is the one that provides for you. And instead of doing that, I started to take credit for myself. And here I was now. Agnane chorus. Ang savanga ne vesnya ne sustainer in this situation. And before long, I tried. When I went home, that drug didn't do anything until just 5 minutes onto the freeway, the drug started to kick in, and I parked on the side, safe at the moment. It was like a new world was opened up for me. And instead of going home, I made a U-turn and went back to the joint. Got home at 4 o'clock in the morning. A new character was born, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now remember, I'm a leader in church. I have to lead people. It's a church of 3,000 people, and I'm a leader there. So, and for the first 2 years, I could balance my drug binge. But after 2 years, I started to lose control. I became emaciated, I lost weight, I became arrogant, egotistic, self-centered. It was all about me and stuff like that. I would go to church. We had 2 services, and in between services, I'll go to the toilet and push some lines and smoke some crack just to get the energy back. My life deteriorated. Thank God for Brahil. May God rest your soul. Came to my house, knocked on the door with label M, sent me to my first rehab. I relapsed there, came out, went to another rehab. I relapsed. I decided that's enough. After I blew so much money, lost weight, suicidal, I knelt on the floor. I said, Lord, I can't take this anymore. I need to get out. And thank God, I got out. And you must remember, this is an Abner Mariri who came from the US. I was in the board. I worked for Billy Graham. I worked for Promise Keepers. I was on the board of World Vision. I worked with the Navigators. I worked with Youth for Christ. I pushed an agenda yamudim. But because I didn't put my life in check, I became Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The dual personality was born. I became something to other people and another thing to other people.